The night has come, it's cold and losing my control. Your light is gone, and lonely darkness fill my soul. I wish that you could save me from my isolation. It's way too complicated. Let's start this conversation. Let's start this conversation. We got no relation.
Good evening, everyone. And if you're just tuning in, you are listening live to the UFO Paranormal and United Public Radio Network. And I'm your host, Lorilei Potvin. Hang tight, guys. We're going to see if TikTok's going to work tonight. We shall see. Let's see. We got to add it on here. That might help, right, guys? Give me 1 sec. It's just starting to work on me again here. There we go. That's what we want. Let's see if it'll behave itself now. We'll try it now. Give me a sec. Sorry, guys. I'm rusty yet. I finally got it to work again. We'll see if it's going to go live. Hopefully, cross your fingers. Looks like it is. Good. Anyways, hi. Welcome. Still haven't got Instagram working here. I'm telling you guys, since StreamYard, it doesn't want to work on me. Why don't you want to work on me, dude? Oh, well, we'll have to figure that out after. Anyways, welcome. Like I said, you're listening to UFO Paranormal and United Public Radio Network. I'm your host, Lorilei Potvin. This is the Angel Rock. And I see some people in the chat already. We will say hi to you very shortly, I promise. And so if you're just tuning in, you are listening to or watching on 105.3 FM in Mississippi and the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM out of the beautiful city of New Orleans, Louisiana. And I am a Canadian psychic medium, crystal Reiki energy healer, Akashic Records practitioner, spiritual teacher and mentor, as well as registered nurse. I'm also extremely well versed in near-death experiences. I've studied them professionally and personally for over 40 years, as well as I had one as a toddler myself. And I'm a budding animal communicator. Julie's not in the chat yet because she'll give me a heck. Julie Jean Bassett. I'm working on it. Also, I'm extremely well versed in the paranormal. I always say, didn't go looking for it. It found me. And we've shared some of our story from our previously very haunted house in the house we lived in before on the Travel Channel's Paranormal Survivor Season 4, Episode 9. I think you can find it on YouTube or all over the place if you wanted to watch that. Also, if you like what you see, please like, share, and subscribe to all your friends and family. There really is something for everybody on this network. It's not all just UFO and paranormal. I think we're almost up to 40 live hosts now, and we're always adding new shows like Beverly Road's new show, True Crime with a Twist, on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I know we got some new programming on Sundays all over the place, so check it out and tell all your friends and family. This network has been around for 25 plus years. We stream multiple shows daily live 7 days a week, and when we're not streaming live, the archive server kicks in and randomly picks shows over the last 25 plus years. So, and we do broadcast to every country in the world. How cool is that? I got to thank Joe Montaldo for that, who started this network and still has numerous shows on this network. And we're streaming actually in New Orleans, where he lives, out of his beautiful home on the bayou. Also, if you want to watch us on TV, you can. We have a TV channel for the network. It's on Roku. How to find us is you're going to go to the channel store and type in UFO space P as in paranormal. And there's a drop-down list. You're looking for the third or fourth one down, looking for UFO Paranormal and United Public Radio. And that's how you can watch us. Also, I got to give a huge shout out to Carnation. Mondays on UPRN here is Carnation Mondays, and they sponsor all the shows like the Angel Rock. So I'm going to give them a huge shout out, and please support them when you see their brand. They have multiple products all across the world, and I'd like to thank them for sponsoring myself and like the Light Gate that's coming up next with 2 hours from now with Preston Dennett and with Dolly Saffron. Also, have I remembered everything here? Okay, so most of our audience, 80%, is audio only. But if you are listening, mainly it's overseas, but you want to join in the conversation because we have lots of fun with the people in the chat that join us here, and we'd love to have you join us. I will mention it as quick as possible. So you can go to my Facebook channel or profile, which is Lorilei Potvin, as well as my YouTube, which is the Angel Rock with Lorilei Potvin. I am also on, it says Instagram. I'm not seeing it on Instagram here, but it says we're live on Instagram, so I'm going to trust that we are. So I won't be able to see your comments. I'll try and check on another device while we're live. We're back on TikTok tonight. Thank you for your patience. It's only taken almost 3 months to get my little trick. Finally, after fighting with it, I see you there, Michelle Wilfong, and give her a huge shout out. Don't feel like you have to go over Michelle, but she is my mod over there on TikTok, and she is incredible. So you can find me under the, I think it's Lorilei Potvin or the Angel Rock, one or the other. You can also go to LinkedIn under the same name, Lorilei Potvin. Also, we are on UFO Paranormal, our main channel on YouTube. And where else are we here? Let me see. We're also on Facebook under the same. I'm going to mention you, don't you worry. We are on the Facebook page for UFO Paranormal as well. And we are on Joe Montaldo's Rumble, which is Jojo Mon, I believe. We are also on Sonia's page. Well, I'll let you tell them when I read your bio. So speaking of Sonya, she's been on numerous times. She's become kind of a fan fave. We have a few of these people like this, like Sonya. And so I'm going to read you her bio just in case you haven't met the lovely Sonya, who's become a good friend of mine as well. Sonya Roy is an extremely gifted bilingual Canadian medium, master holistic healer, including she is a Master Reiki Healer and Shamanic Practitioner, as well as an author of numerous incredible books. Sonya was previously a Royal Canadian Mounted Police Officer, or RCMP, and uses her life experiences and knowledge as well as exceptional abilities to help guide and teach others, to help people to empower them and recognize their divine self. And she also has a newer book. I wouldn't be surprised. She's got another one ready to come out. She's an incredible author. The last one that she had out was Narcissism, 12 Steps to Successfully Heal and Flourish After Narcissistic Abuse. Welcome, Sonya. Nice to see you.
Good evening, everybody.
Where are you streaming so they know?
I'm streaming on my Facebook page and on the YouTube page, YouTube site, whatever they call it. And I believe they're both called Redo Spiritual Wellness Center.
They are. I'm just checking. Yeah. Good. Oh, actually, you're under Sonya Roy on YouTube.
Ah, okay. So the new book, and that's where people sometimes are like, oh, when's the new book coming out? The thing is that when we get an English book coming out, we had the Narcissistic book come out last June. Then we translate it into French. And it's not faster, really, because the problem is that you have to go through the same process. Even though the text is written, it's like writing you still have to type the whole thing. Mind you, you don't look for ideas or research. It's all done, but still takes a while. And then you have to get in line up for the editors and the, grammar and syntax and orthograph and things like that. And then you get in line with the printing. So the French version just came out early June.
Okay.
So right now, I'm actually working on the theory books for the classes that I teach.
Oh, cool. Well, hold on there. Let's say hi to everybody, because once we get talking, you and I get talking. We're already talking because we haven't talked in a while, because Sonya went to Japan. Now she's on holidays. And she's going to Sedona in a couple days. So hang on, let's say hi. We got Julia Evans. Thank you for being here. She's over in the UK. So I know that it is 11:30 p.m. over there. So thank you. We got Contessa Martins, or Connie. We got Sonya saying hi to everybody in the chat. So thank you. I've got Sherry Madigan saying hi, Lorilei and Sonya. Greetings from Newfoundland and welcome. Thank you. Michelle Wilfong. And like I said, she is one of my mods over on TikTok. Well, she is my main mod, and she's incredible. She does a great job. She has her own TikTok. You guys check it out. She lives in a haunted apartment and posts all kinds of incredible activity from her home. Let's see. We got Kirby's 100. Oh, they say next Thursday I will comment to you more about vampires. Okay, well you can, but we're moving on next Thursday. That's what I forgot to mention. How could I? You guys, I also have a second show Thursdays that I co-host with my very good friend Carrie Lynn Shellhorn, who also has Spirit Switchboard here on Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This week we're not talking about vampires. We're talking about Dogman, lichens, and werewolves. Well, they're kind of the same. But you can probably throw your comments in there about vampires if you like. That was last week. We got Mish. She says, "G'day all." And Mish always says over in the future because it's Tuesday morning over there. So welcome and thank you for being here. Everybody saying hi to one another. Hopefully I don't miss anybody. Oh, hi, Manuel Lopez. I love and light and sound. Well, thank you. I haven't seen you in a long time. Nice to have you back. Vet Girl 84 is here. Thank you for being here. Let's see. I'll have to make you future coffee because I'm walking.
Waking.
Walking. No walking. What do you take in it? Are you talking to me? Is that who you're talking about? You're talking about somebody else. If it's me, no, she's talking. He's actually talking to Mish. Where's my coffee? There we go. Okay, so on to your theory books. What are you doing with your theory books?
Right. So I don't know if anybody realizes, but I've been teaching now for 15 years. Right. Mm-hmm. So that it's not a new thing. And over the years, we realized, that the thing is, a lot of this stuff comes to us, right? You'd be the first one to know this. The stuff comes, and then you have to integrate that stuff. You understand how it works, and then you get into practice. And wait, okay, so now you kind of got A and B. Let's give you C, D, E. Right. And so now you got more information. You're like, oh, okay. So how does that fit in what I'm already doing? Oh, okay. Makes it better, makes it faster. All right. And then you apply this and you put it into motion and then, wait, okay. So this is great. You're actually using the information we're giving you. This is actually working for you. So now here's more information, right? So eventually things grow. Like when I first started teaching mediumship, it was 3.5 hours. Now it's 2 days.
Yeah.
And when I started teaching light language, it was 1 day, and now it's 3 days. Right. So, and the people are like, so am I missing something? I said, well, what do you think? Right. You took a 1 day class, which is what I knew at the time. Now we're talking 15, 17, 18 years later. Well, obviously, I got more practice, I got more experience, and I had more information downloaded, so I got more to offer. So obviously, there's more. So you take the class and you'd say, wow, this is like 90% new stuff because I understand it better and I work with it better and I got more experience. I know how to handle things. The process is faster. So the last download I had about 2 years ago, they're now saying, okay, so now do you see where this is going? Everything is connected and everything helps everything else. So it's actually, it came to me when I was doing the podcast on the mystery schools. So they were, the reason why we call them mystery school is because they were secret. And the reason why they were secret is that we have to put ourselves back in the time that they were doing these things, and they could put their life in jeopardy by saying what is being said in the mystery school, because it went against what the people at the time in power believed in and felt threatened if this knowledge would be dispersed. And one of the most important things is that we hold the power. And it's within, everything is within us. So no one else can save us. We have to save ourselves. And in order to save ourselves, we have to know ourselves. And we have to know about, why is there the 7 sins are so bad? What is it about them that prevents our spiritual development and all those things, right? And so they said, you see, instead of a mystery school, we need a wisdom school. And I'm like, yeah, that's better. Right. And they're like, so now you're going to do this wisdom school. I'm like, oh, I see. Okay. When you say yes to something. And so it became the wisdom school of spiritual transformation. So going from thinking you're a human to realizing you're actually a spiritual being, and then empowering yourself as a spiritual being, having a human experience.
Okay. So now you're Okay, so you're writing books about this now? Is that what you're doing?
Well,
taking what you've learned to put into books then with the theory?
so this is now part of, became like, you can see the links now. I can see how everything fits together. And so now we started writing the theory for this, and it's over 600 pages.
Oh gosh, okay.
So obviously it's too big of a book. So we decided, okay, so it's too intimidating. I have a 600-page book here, and I haven't even opened it yet because it's kind of scaring me.
I have one like that. I have one. My friend Leanne Clark, her and I are working on our first course. Hopefully in the fall, you guys. We're working on it right now, and it's called the Henry Dowser series. Dowser. So she kept telling me about this book and telling me about this book and telling me about this book. So I thought I finally found it on Amazon and bought it. No, I just got the techniques. This is a book this thick.
Yeah.
All different healing modalities. And even Leanne said she's only got through the first 100 pages. We were just talking about this the other day, that maybe it's almost like a little mini book club between the two of us. Like we'll read so many pages and then get together, practice, talk about it, see what we think with it. But you're right. 600 pages of a book is like a textbook. It becomes intimidating.
So I figured, okay, so just to see, I divided it in 3 levels. Which makes sense with the way you grow and develop anyway, right? So then we're like, okay, so we'll split it in 3. So then we have to stop I had to stop the writing, and I have a business partner. So it's nice because I can bounce ideas off of it. I was like, okay, so if we were to separate this in 3, they'd be the beginning, the intermediary, and the mastery level, right? So where are the simple things? And Akashic Record fits in the beginning, because it's the basic of what everybody should know, right? It's like trying to drive a car and no one's explaining you anything. Well, maybe you'll figure it out, but maybe you'll crash. You know what I mean? So we establish, okay, so this will go in the beginner's book. This is what everybody needs to know. So we'll just put that in this first.
Okay, so let's just stop there, because I didn't grab it and I should have. This is my Akashic Records thing I've taken with my mentor, 2 separate courses, right? But okay, this is a problem. A lot of people don't know, what is the Akashic Records? What is it all about? And why would you consider that to be part of a beginner type theory book, if you will? I know, but in your own words, so people will understand what is it. Because not everybody here is on the spiritual path that's watching, right?
Right. And that's all I do, right?
I'm listening. We got to remember that, because we've got people from we have well over 900,000, between 900,000. We haven't quite hit 1 million yet. We have 900,000 plus people watching every week from all over the world. And not all of them are spiritual. So they have no idea what that is.
Just to clarify, being spiritual does not mean that you're religious. There are 2 very different things, right? Religion.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. Religion comes from an organization.
Yeah.
So if someone else is dictating to you what it is to be spiritual and what you need to do in order to prove that you're part of this group. However, you can believe there's a higher power. Now, this higher power for when you're strictly spiritual and not a religious person, you can accept anybody's name for this higher power. For some people, it's simply higher power. For others, it's God, it's Goddess, it's Mother Earth, Father Sky.
Universe, source. I mean, we could go on and on. The one thing I want to add very quickly, that I'm very glad you're saying this, because I am seeing this more and more and more and more, and I'm not being judgmental, but I'm loving that you're defining this, because I've seen a lot of religious practices telling people what they must be doing, and slapping the label of spirituality or spiritualism on it. So please continue.
Right. So in my life experience, I've seen a lot. I've experienced a lot, and so everything that I say comes from a place of non-judgment and complete acceptance. So as long as you're not trying to push your name onto me and we can have an open conversation about this, then I'm happy to discuss what I know, what I experienced. And I don't need to be convinced otherwise. So this isn't about convincing anybody anything. However, having crossed over to the other side, across the veil, being in spirit form, you call it whatever you want. I'm trying to cover all the terms here. Astral experience, out-of-body experience. But I've had these my entire life, sometimes multiple times a week. When I first started to experience those, on the other side was my grandmother. So she passed away before I was born, and she would help me get out of my body. And then she would say, okay, well, today it's important for you to remember this past life you had in Egypt. So let's go to Egypt tonight. And
you always tell me these experiences, and it's so cool that you were able to have this relationship with your grandmother in spirit.
It's I don't know. I've never yet met anybody else who had this.
I haven't.
So I'm open to anyone wanting to share this if they have had this kind of experience. But it was I was very miserable when I was young. I failed to thrive as a baby, and I tried to kill myself. I was 5.5. So I really was unhappy here. Every night I would be like looking at the stars, at the universe, knowing that there is something outside of my body that I can rejoin. I can talk to them and they can hear me. And I was begging them, please, why did you put me here? What were you guys thinking? Like, this isn't for me. This is not my place. I don't want to be here. And of course, I'm 4 or 5. So
I remember not at 5.5, but at the ages of probably between 9 and 13 especially, did not want to be here. I could not wait to get old enough to move out.
But I don't even want to move out of the house. I want to move out of my body because I don't want to be stuck inside the body. So I know that there's a whole other aspect of living that exists outside of this human body. And I felt that this human body was more of a trap than anything else. But I'm still 4, so although I experience things and I get to hear or find out about things, I also don't remember everything from the other side. So, there's that catch-22, right? So the essential stuff about Akashic record were taught to me by my grandmother while I was with her traveling to the Akashic library. So I'm pretty confident in what I know because I've been there and I've seen it. Right. So, I mean, but it's like everything else. I mean, we can both go to the same place. You go on a sunny day, I go on a rainy day, and we'll both describe very different experiences, right? So, but still, it's this place that you can go. It's a massive, massive library. And inside the library are all these books, and each book belongs to a soul. So you're in this life, in this incarnation, you're Lorilei. That's who you are, and you have family, you have beliefs, you have things that are attaching you to this physical life. But your soul has a different name. Do you know your soul name? No one's ever given you your soul name. Okay. So
you know what, though? I want to stop right there though for a minute.
Yes.
I've never asked because to me, I'm not one to get hung up on names, and that's the honest goodness truth. Like, I just don't. And you know what? Even I'm going to bring up Carrie Lynn. She has a program that she teaches called Who's Your Bob? And about the thing is about the name of your spirit guide, and it's justice. But I appreciate that because it would be interesting. But from what I've heard from some people, like the name can sometimes be so long, your true soul name, that it could take you a day or two to say it. So
because, and I'll explain, but this is important. This all goes with the Akashic record. Your soul is millions of years old, and it's not limited by speech like we are. And so when you say who you are, you're saying who you are with your color, with your vibration, with your sound, right? So it's much, much more. And it's who you are in this moment. Are you love? Are you sad? Or you're expressing all your emotion. You're expressing all your feelings, right? That all goes into your name because you're more than just a name, right? But on these books is that name that's written down. And everybody has a book, and these books can vary in color. And the color of the book depends on your soul's specialty, I guess I can say, right? So some of us are green souls, some of us are, there's basically the color of the chakras, but there's 12 colors. So there's fuchsia, red, orange, yellow, green, pink, purple, light blue, indigo, violet, right? So there's brown as well. So, and that tells you who's your soul family.
Okay.
Because some of us is the healing family. Other people.
Okay, so what's the difference then?
From the idea of our incarnation on earth, our soul came here to learn, right?
Yeah.
We came here to learn the basic lessons, such as choices, choosing love, compassion, sharing, harmony, honesty, right? So there's all these lessons that's your basic learning. So we'd say, like, most people have to go to school until grade 12. Right? You go to high school. Everybody gets pretty much the same education. They get the same basics, right?
Mm-hmm.
You follow me? So at school, you
Well,
learn.
I'm following you, but I'm kind of thinking education's kind of evolving is where I'm going, right? Like a lot of people are choosing to homeschool now, right? But still, it's
right. But you're still learning the same thing. You're learning to read, write.
I gotcha. Right?
Yeah. So as a soul, we need to learn these basic things. But then above and beyond that, we have to specialize in something to make the Earth family evolve. So some people will be inventors, but they will be inventors from lifetime to lifetime. They might have like I have one life as a pirate, and it still led me to spirituality eventually. But if you're a healer, you've been a healer in multiple lives. If you've been a teacher, you've been, that's your spirit family.
Okay.
So you're here. Yes, Mish, it's possible. Chris is all about crystals. So everything when she crosses the other side is made of crystals.
You're talking about your roommate and your business partner for people that would know. Okay.
Yeah. So all our stuff is literally always made of crystals, and so it's really, really amazing that when you start helping people finding their way and their soul family and their specialty and where they're supposed to be, that you start finding all these hints that are there to help you along the way. So you have the ability to go read this book. Now you can read your past life, and I guess for a lot of people, it's more curiosity than actual healing tool, right? They're curious. They want to know what their past life is like. I've uncovered about 30 or 40 of mine. I can't remember now. I'd have to look. I write them down as soon as they come in and as they make sense. For example, I was having an existential crisis, and I was like, should I really be doing what I'm doing, or should I just quit everything? Yeah. You get to those points, I guess, right? And then I started getting really, really sick, and I couldn't understand what was going on, but we decided to go and look inside the Akashic Record book to find the explanation as to why am I getting so sick? Why is everything so screwed? Why is nothing working properly? And while we went into the book, you can go sometime in this lifetime to go remember things you've forgotten when you were a child or a baby, or you go to this past life. I ended up in a past life as a Qatar. Now, the Qatars is a very small region in the north of Italy, southern of France, and east of Spain. It's a very small area where these people lived. And these people were following the teaching of Jesus and were against reproduction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they found sexuality to deprive you of your higher spiritual vibration.
Okay.
And one of the things they did is they ate fish because fish didn't sexually reproduce, right? Fish lay the eggs and the male don't.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So that's why they don't eat chicken and they don't eat beef and anything that reproduced they didn't touch, because they felt that these would carry very low vibrations, and their whole purpose as Cathars is to live in a community, help each other. And it was very interesting because male and female in that time, so we're talking 1200 to 1300, women weren't equals to men, but in Qatar society they were. So that's
really odd back in those days. Wow.
Yes.
Mhm.
So and the way when I do this with people or for myself, it's like a movie. So, and I'm recording myself and I'm talking, right? And I'm like, this is so weird because I have all these keys and I'm in charge of the food and I'm in charge of lodging. And how can I be in charge? I'm a woman, right? And this is really weird to me, but I'm going through this process where eventually they were doing really well. Because whether you were taking care of horses to plow the fields, whether you were the guy who made the leather for the horse, it didn't matter. Everyone was equal and everybody got paid the same. Everybody had the same amount of food. Everybody had a roof over their heads. And my job was to make sure that if a new family came in, that we'd build them a house and they'd have a place to stay and they'd have a contribution to give back to the community. So obviously, in that system, it prospered. And the church was pissed off because they're not getting the dividends of this prosperity. And so they attacked and destroyed the Cathars.
Oh, that's sad.
Yes. And one of the ways they could identify the Cathars was that they're not married and they don't have children.
Oh, okay.
So I'm watching this past life and I'm running to the forest. And I said, there's a whole bunch of people in the forest. We're living inside the forest, but now people are coming out and I think I'm left alone, or there's very few people in the forest. And then I find these two kids. One of them's drowning. I save the kid. And the father, who's a widower, asked me to marry him. But I'm completely appalled by the fact that if I marry this man, I'll have to have a sexual relationship with him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because it's literally setting me back in my spiritual development to have sexual relationship as a Cathar. Mm-hmm. And but to save my neck, because obviously I'm alone. I'm a woman, single, living in the woods alone. Mm-hmm. You know, it spells witch. It means, kill this woman, right? So I married this man, but I raised the children, and then I die of a broken heart because I felt that there was nothing more I could do because I'd strayed so far off the path of my spiritual development that I could never get back into it. So then you take this information of this very detailed, vision and explanation, and then you have to apply it to my existential crisis, which I was getting sick because I was losing faith.
That makes sense. So you tapped it. Okay, so this kind of goes back to Revelation. I've mentioned many times that I work with Leanne and Debbie. They've been on the show before numerous times, but it was Leanne and I one weekend. Debbie wasn't able to be there, and the information sometimes that we get from Spirit comes in like jigsaw pieces, like the three of us together, it all fits together. And we kept asking the question, well, how do we do this? Like, how are we going to make this happen? How are we going to do this? And then it came through from Spirit that you can do this because you've done it numerous times before. So it's literally projecting your energy back into and having the faith that you know how to do this because you've done it many, many times before. That's what that sounds like and feels like.
And the idea of the classes that I teach is to give people a pathway to follow. Hi, Dawn.
Wait, let's pause just for 1 second. Say hi to everybody because we've got a few people popping in here. Hang on. Let's see who was here. Tristan Jacobson says, Namaste, dear Soul Fam. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Let's see. Vet Girl 84, I guess with the book. They're saying their book would be, they said mine is Aurora Borealis.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. I had that eyeshadow on tonight, actually. It's supposed to look like Aurora Borealis. And we've got Shannon. She says, evening, everyone. Evening, Shannon. Thank you for joining us. And then we've got, it's Dawn. Is it Dawn? No, or is it Dan?
It's Dawn.
Sorry, Dawn, I haven't got my glasses on. Dawn Rogers at March 4th Productions. Welcome. Nice to have you here. Thank you. So let me pop on to TikTok here. We got, let's see, there's Couch Potatoes here. Welcome. We had a Ruth that was here, and Michelle's keeping a good eye because things just go flying by on TikTok. So thank you, Michelle Wilfong. She's popped over there too. So I keep popping over there. I don't want to miss her comments because she always has good comments and questions too. Sorry, go ahead. Continue, please.
Right. So now and that's where the introspection kicks in, right? So that may be next level kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, so just like this past self, I'm having this same, existential crisis as, is what I'm doing important? Is what I'm doing matter? Should I keep doing this? Should it something different? And I'm able to see from observing this past life is that if I were to stop doing what I'm doing, I would lose my purpose. And without a purpose, there's no need for me to still be inside this physical shape. So, understanding that it is my purpose, I went back to work and I'm on the next book. You know what I mean? So the Akashic records are also there to help you figure out what is your purpose. We all came on this planet for a reason. We were all born at a certain time in a certain family because that's what we chose. And that's why understanding Akashic record is so important, because that's, instead of being mad, you have to understand, why the hell did you choose to be raised in that family? What was the purpose of you going through these experiences? Because later on, you need to go back into this pool of experience and say, I understand how that feels. If, someone had come to me back when I was a child and they should have said this, and that, that's what I needed to hear. I will tell this person what I needed to hear because they're in a similar situation, giving the same similar emotions. So I can support them, I can assist them, I can be there for them, and they're not alone and single. So that's one of the purposes. All of the purpose are to, in the end, make the world a better place, and better than when you came into it.
Well, that makes a lot, obviously, you want to leave the world better than hopefully when you entered it, right? But I always say too, yeah, you can go back and get those answers. And I look at, and I always tell people, this is, I was telling Sonya before we went live, excuse me, Kat Ward of Paranormal, I think it's Paranormal Heart. Please forgive me, Kat. I'm going off the top of my memory here. Our show is on Tuesdays, I think at 6 p.m. here in Eastern Standard Time here in UPRN. And I had been on her show a couple months ago talking about my paranormal experiences, but I mentioned the Akashic records. And a few people in the audience were asking, what's the Akashic records? What's this all about? And we talked about it. And she's having somebody on in a few weeks talking about the Akashic records. And I said, she may speak of it completely differently than I do, because I think it's our experience about how we can best perceive it, receive, and what have you. But it's still the same purpose, that we do have the ability to go in there and achieve some of the answers, or like you say, go into past lives, go wherever this may be, right? Because I've always been taught that there's a record for everything. And basically, I think you're saying sort of the same thing, because you have your book, right? There's a record for everything that's going to be in your life. And you can go in there and access it and basically, get some of the answers that you're looking for in your life. And it is a vital part, I think, for anybody, especially when you can't understand. So you're trying to, especially when you're newly at this path and you're trying to understand, because that's a big pill to swallow for a lot of people. Because I always say, well, especially people that are finding their spiritual purpose. And everybody has that right to follow it, but not everybody's going to answer that call, if you will. But the people that do, I have yet to run into. 99.9% of people on this path have not grown up in a Brady Bunch wonderful life. There's been a lot of pain. Yeah, it's just the truth. I've yet to run into somebody who says, oh, I had a wonderful life and everything was perfect. And no, they've had a lot of pain. And so when you're going down this path and you accept that I chose the parents that brought me into this world, I chose some of these experiences that have shaped me into the person I am, that's the big pill to swallow, right? And unravel it. So. But to be able to go into the records and get those answers. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I totally agree with you, because if you had a peachy, rosy childhood, which, some people do have that, and I'm happy for them. But when you have a difficult, where I grew up in terror, I wouldn't say it was even fear. I was in terror.
We've had similar childhoods. We've talked about it many times off air.
Yeah, I was obsessive compulsive by the time I was like 3.5, I think, to try and cope with everything that was going on in my childhood. So when you find out, wait a second, I asked for this.
Yeah, that's the big purpose. Well, there's no way I would ever have asked for this. There's no way.
Like, are you shitting me right now? You know, and but once you get past the shock of the original, you know, yes, you did ask for this. It is 100%. I'm sure of it. You wanted this to happen, but why? Why? Again, it's tied in with karma and your past lives. Now, in a past life, with my mother and my father, we were together. In the sense that my mother was an inquisitor from the church, and you know, she tortured people. You know, yeah. And then my dad was a coward, and he was a prison guard, and I was again the girl alone in the freaking, you know, forest and collecting herbs, and I'm not doing anything witchy per se. I'm just collecting herbs, and I know that these herbs help with fever, and these herbs in the cream, they help with rheumatoid arthritis and blah blah blah. I healed his family that were sick, but somehow I got arrested. So I'm in jail, and my now mother, at that point inquisitor, is torturing me to make me say that I'm in league with the devil, because the minute I admit that I'm in league with the devil, then I can be purged by fire, right? And that's why there's no good way out of this. So I might as well, I think the idea was I'd rather die from being tortured than being burned alive. So no, you can torture me until I die, but I will never say, you know. And I think you can look at somebody's eyes and you can see that determination. You can see like, yeah, I think they actually mean it. That's actually how it's gonna go. And she didn't want to make a martyr out of me, and so she decided that, you know what? Okay, well, let's skip all that. Let's cut you to pieces and hang you in the different parts of the wall as a warning to people. And as I'm being dragged away, now I'm yelling, screaming, cursing, and doing all these things. And I'm vengeful, I'm angry, I'm resentful, and I'm throwing all this shit at my then prison guard and my then inquisitor torturer person. Obviously, that was not a reaction of love, compassion, you know, and forgiveness. And so I didn't.
Sonya, why did you not have love, compassion, and forgiveness while this was happening to you? I'm being facetious.
But that's the point. I should have said, and I'm quoting a big guy here, they don't know what they're doing.
I was just thinking that. I was just thinking, though, but we aren't all like Jesus. Otherwise, you wouldn't keep coming back here to have these experiences, to have our souls learn, grow, and evolve with each lifetime we experience.
but see, this is actually very important. I you know, I can do this from a Kuan Yin point of view, a Buddha point of view, a Jesus point of view. But in this case, we'll take Jesus. Jesus was able to say, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. And that's why he's an ascended master now. That's why he's, you know, there to help us to get to that, because that's our trajectory. That's where we're supposed to be heading. And so I chose to be born in that family because I would have a torturer because she was a narcissist, and I would have a coward because she's in love with a narcissist. So I would reproduce a similar energetic composition of situation. So she tortured me, she beat me up, she did all these things, and my father was there and did nothing. And, you know, at one point, I had the choice to do the same thing, swear at them, yell at them, you know, do a whole bunch of things. And when this kind of came to the surface, I was like, no, that's not the purpose of what I'm trying to accomplish here. I'm actually trying to talk to my father, trying to actually understand why he didn't protect me, why did he let that happen? And if I get mad and I swear and I just throw all this shit around me like a volcano, what's the purpose? I'm not serving my purpose right now. So I re-swallowed all that, and I'm like, okay, so can you explain it? And I had a conversation with my father. And his answer, sadly, was, well, you know what your mother is like, which basically means that I was a meat sack of protection. So if she targeted me, she didn't target him. And that's the way the narcissist works. So, and that's what got me really angry. But again, I swallowed all back in, and I'm like, right. But to be under the influence of a narcissist for 40 years, he probably got chipped away to the point where there's nothing left. You know, that he's a complete victim himself. And I'm asking the victim to protect me. But he can't. It's like, you know, the expression getting blood from a stone. you can't get blood or water from a stone. It's just not there. Well, I can't get protection because he's incapable of it. He's so broken. He's so destroyed. There's nothing left. And that's where I found it inside of me going, oh, I get it now. So I said, then I'm asking you something that you can't give. That's unfair of me to be asking that of you. So I said, I'm sorry for putting that request on you. And I said, we're good. So I said, can we do like carte blanche? What's the English expression? Or is it, a new start?
Brand new, a new start. Carte blanche means white card, right? Like new start, basically.
New start. So I said, okay, so can we, because now I'm 18. Clean slate. There you go. So, I said, I'm 18. I don't live in the house anymore. She doesn't have to interfere in the relationship. Can we start fresh? And we did. And it was really, really fantastic because for about 25 years, I was able to build a relationship with my father. And, there was no hard feeling and everything got left behind. And it's a whole other story with my mother, but I eventually got there as well. But,
well, I could explain that too. Hi, Mort Ali. We see you here. Welcome. It's the same as something that I discovered was done to me as a very young child, that no young child should be able to ever experience or have to. But I'm very thankful, and I have to thank Spirit for this, because it was literally them giving me the perspective of who this person is as a soul and the role and agreement they made to play in this part and to be able to forgive. Now, and I saw Mish's comment here, forgive and forget. Yes, you can. But what I want to say to people, forgiveness is a gift to yourself. It really, really is, because most of the time when we are hanging on to things that others have done to us, I don't know if you've all heard the saying, living rent free in your head, because they are, because most people don't even think another moment about what they've done, or you would have had a conversation, cleared it, and actually been able to forgive it. So by forgiving, it means if you can see them instead of with the human eyes, as I call it, versus your spiritual eyes, who you are as soul, pure love, and that they're playing a role here. Okay. But you don't ever have to forgive what they did to you. But if you can see them from that perspective and try to forgive, and nobody's perfect and it takes a lot of work. And sometimes you have to work with different, whatever resonates with you, whether it might be therapy, might be working with a healer such as myself or Sonya or other people out there. There's many different roads to be able to get to that point. Because I'm telling you, to be able to let it go. Have you ever heard too, I'm sure, about revenge? Most people that have just stuck on revenge, I'm going to get revenge. And by the time it finally happens, most people just feel empty, hollow, and the fact that
they're like, that's not what I wanted it to feel like.
Yeah, I was going to say they feel worse because they expected this vindication and this wonderful feeling. And really what happens, most people just say, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It just wasn't.
And I think that's the biggest thing, is that it's come almost anticlimactic. You're expecting this big release, but the release doesn't come from your revenge. It comes from forgiveness. So you totally missed the boat and you wasted all these years in hatred. And this is important because this hatred is attacking your own vibration and your own body. So you're making yourself
soul. It eats away your soul.
So you're making yourself sick. You're damaging your body with all this hatred, resentment, and anger. Meanwhile, you could just get down to the bottom and release all that and free yourself.
The problem is, so like attracts like energy. And when we're in that vibration, and this is with no judgment for anybody hearing this, okay, one thing my father taught me was you walk a mile in someone's shoes. I don't know what you're experiencing and what you're going through. But with that being said, when you're sitting in that vibration of anger, hatred, all those low, I know you know this, but for our audience, right, you're going to draw more of that to you.
Absolutely.
Because like attracts like, and energy, plus the universe is going to keep giving you those opportunities to get it right. Yeah.
Yes, because the universe is like trying to show you through a mirror right? This is what mirror is all about. It's trying to show you through the mirror, look, you're surrounded with anger. That's because you're attracting it. Now may be a good time for you to open the door and look inside and see what you're so angry about and deal with it, right? So yes, absolutely, 100% behind you on that.
Or you can get ill. One of the books I use a lot, I do. Where is it up here? I always pull it out. I'm going to pull it out. Give me one sec, guys. It's right here. Here we go. It's well used. The cover's ripping. It's called The Secret Language of Your Body by
I love that one. Yeah, that's a good one.
This book, I'm telling you, I like it, I think, from the nurse perspective. You don't have to have a medical background to use this book, by the way, but it goes by body parts, and it also goes by specific illnesses. If you can't find them in here, Google is your friend. You can just look up what is the spiritual significance of. What does it mean spiritually? Could be cancer, could be ulcerative colitis, could be diabetes, could be whatever.
What's the author? Who's the author?
Pardon? Ina, INNA. Hi, Julie Jean Bassett. Segal, Segal. So the book starts out with her story about what happened to her and why she came across this healing modality. Okay, like she was 19, couldn't even get out of bed. And so she shares in here, she calls it, I think she says, activate your divine healing intelligence. I tell people that's just your higher self. You can call it whatever you want. But she works with unhealthy and healthy emotions. And I guarantee you, most people, and I always tell them not to answer it, but most people will say, I'm just going to pick one here. Just most people will tell me, oh my gosh. And even though I'm reading it and I may know the person a little bit that I've worked with them, and I in the beginning I used to think, well, that doesn't sound like them. And then most people say, oh my God, that's exactly who I am. It's because you know your inner self. And I always tell people, you don't have to answer these questions for me. They're for you to take a look at. It also works with color. So for example, I'll just pick bleeding gums. I don't know. I just opened the page. So one of the meanings is feeling unsure of yourself, difficulty asking for help, feeling unsupported, wanting things yesterday, refusing to change, extremely demanding of yourself and others, neglecting your body. Now, the reason why there's a multitude of answers here, and these are things I believe she's channeled, is not everything may resonate with you. So for example, well, how do I fix this? Well, it's written in here by body parts. So you go to, say, mouth, right? If bleeding gums, it's in there. So you would look up because it's got a remedy. It's got all healthy emotions to work with, healthy, unhealthy, and colors to work with to help activate your
Fantastic. I love that. But there's several books out there along the same lines.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like I use the one by Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life.
Yeah, I have that one too. What I was going to add though is, again, there are several books out there like that, but this is where I was going with this. When you hang on to anger and you hang on to these lower vibrational emotions, energy can be transferred from one place to another, but it cannot be created nor destroyed. It can tend to sit and just sort of build, get heavy, get dark. I'm healthier now, turning 60 in August than I was in my early 30s. I almost died. They didn't know what was wrong with me. That's what began my healing journey for me. I found my own answers. I'm not fixed. Nobody's fixed. I'll be a work of healing and working on myself probably till the day I die. But my point is, that energy was just stored, and my body was basically eating itself alive. Like that, it had to move, it had to be released, and it takes work and it's messy, but you know what? You'll be doing yourself a favor, definitely. So I just gotta say hi to Julie Jean Bassett. We got to give her a shout out. I love Julie Jean. She was just on here. I love you all. But Julie Jean's become a really good friend. She's an incredible animal communicator, you guys. So if you're looking for answers as to why your cat is, I don't know, I'll use mine, peeing outside the litter box, for example, and there's not a health issue, she'll be able to tell you if there is one. But if there isn't, what is that cat trying to tell you? Or why are they always clawing your favorite couch, that one couch? Dogs, why do they do this? Why do they do it? Doesn't have to just be cats and dogs, it be any animals. Julie is your person. She's helped me with many of my animals. She just had a beginner animal communication course this past weekend. I've taken it. I believe it's our birthright to be able to communicate with animals, and she can work with them over the Rainbow Bridge, Earthside, as well as human beings. And she's also an incredible shamanic practitioner. I had a really incredible life-changing session with her. I've also had one with Sonya too. She is an incredible healer. And please check her out at juliejeanbassett.com. Julie, I wonder, you know what, you should just put the website in her. She has another website for her shamanic practitioner practice, and it's some www.white there's a word.com. I always forget it. Anyways, go ahead, Sonya. Oh, actually, I should do the station ID because we're going to get talking and I'm going to forget. So if you're just tuning in, you guys, you're listening live to the Angel Rock on UFO, Paranormal, and United Public Radio Network, broadcast on 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast and in Mississippi, and on 107.7 FM in beautiful, I can't talk tonight, in the beautiful city of New Orleans. And this is the Angel Rock. I'm your host, Lorilei Potvin, and this is one of our fan faves. She comes on a couple times a year, well, more than that actually, usually about 4 times a year. Sonya Roy. We're talking about the Akashic records and many things like that. So yes, thank you. Please go ahead. Sorry, that was a mouthful there.
And I know you have to say these things, so it's all good. But part of my the class that I teach on Akashic record, we actually spend a quarter of the class on understanding. Once you understand that, first of all, you're a soul, not a human being, right? And that you have a purpose, but you can't find your purpose while you're still hurting. And you chose your parents and you chose to go through these experiences because it's going to eventually lead you to your purpose. Now you need to release this pain. Mm-hmm. Right? So, I mean, it's a 2-day weekend, so we can't cover everything in 2 days, but that's the introduction of it. Then we go into the forgiveness of it. And it's really interesting because I have, students that take multiple classes with me, and that's a beginner's class. And I kept telling one of my students, you haven't taken this class yet. She's like, I don't need it. I'm like, it's a beginner's class. I think you should, but I'm not there to force anybody. But after I traveled this road with people for 3 or 4 years, they're more friends than just students. So we have a relationship. So eventually, she's like, "Oh, fine," and I'm like, "Don't do it for me. You need to do this for yourself." She's like, "I'll just do it, so you stop bugging me." I'm like, "All right, sure." She completed this class and she's like, but I've dealt with this. And I said, no, right now you're not dealing with it. You're pushing away what I'm trying to help you unearth. So we need to really open. And if it's really resolved, there'll be no emotion. And then she started yelling and screaming, and they have cushions they can beat it because the emotion that's been repressed for so long is finally allowed to come out. Peak. Right. And now that it's finally found a way to get out of this container, it just wants out. And she's like, oh my gosh, she's like, I'm still being affected by this. I said, yes, because it's so painful that you're scared to relive this intense emotion.
Plus there's layers.
Absolutely. There's the anger, but I think that the biggest anger was she was angry at herself. Right? So because she was in an abusive relationship and she didn't leave right away. I'm like, okay, but you're not today the girl you were when this was going on. So you can't, we talk about judging other people, but we're judging ourselves the worst. We're so unkind to ourselves. Because when you finally get something, you're like, well, why didn't I get that when I was 20 and I could have saved myself all this trouble? Well, yes, but then again, you didn't have the knowledge you have now. You don't have the experience, the wisdom. You don't have the support. You had none of that stuff when you were 20. That's why it happened.
I always try to remind myself that everything happens when it's meant to, as well as to embrace it all, because it makes you who you are today. Because yes, we do beat ourselves up, and I'm going to tell. I do it too. Even with my son passing away, the night he passed away, even when after the autopsy, the coroner told me even if he had gone to the emergency a couple of days before, it probably still would have ended up the way it was. But we do that as human beings, and we are our own worst enemy. We beat ourselves up, the negative self-talk and the things we say to ourselves in our head. Most people wouldn't dream of saying to another person, at least not to their face. We got people behind a keyboard sometimes hiding things, but we just don't. And what we don't realize is how incredibly powerful our words are, our thoughts,
Absolutely.
our emotions, and our words. So when we
also how paralyzing these thoughts are.
Yeah, they are. And then we all do it. I know it's a matter of starting to train yourself and then catch yourself when you start thinking these things. And even if you want to say something like in your head, stop, cancel, clear, delete, and restate that again, because sometimes I don't know if this may help people, if you can't think of yourself with self-love, if you have to take a picture of yourself when you were little, or maybe you're a parent and you have little ones, or you've been around a little one, would you say those words to this little person in front of you? No, you wouldn't. So treat yourself the way you would treat others, especially little children, because we need to be treated that way ourselves first. That's where it starts, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's a great suggestion. That's a great idea. I like that. I might use that.
Yes. Well, it's not. Well, most of these things come from spirit, right? That's why I think people sometimes, I'm sitting here talking, I may forget what I'm thinking. I hear spirit, I'm pushing all these buttons and stuff, and that was from spirit, but it's true, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
And we judge ourselves. Go ahead. Sorry.
So the idea is, if you can understand that you have put these different challenges and people in your life on your journey, you also get to a point to be able to understand your bird vision. Now, the concept was introduced by James Redfield, and he said that before you're born, you have established, these will be my parents, these will be the community I will grow up in. Because I'm there and these are the people in my life, I'm going to grow up to be this way. And you see the perfect vision of it, right? With the very special element, key points that are going to help you go, oh, this is time for me to turn left, right? So, and it's funny because it took me years to recall mine, but about 2 years ago, my brother who passed away 30 years ago came to see me, right? So, along with Akashic record, there's a lot of mediumship that kind of intertwines, right? It's to me, that's where I'm saying everything kind of meshes together. But my brother shows up and he's like, I am getting reincarnated. I'm ready. And I'm like, okay, that's quick, 30 years, but sure.
No. Well, no time on the other side. Right?
And then he tells me, do you want to see my bird vision? I said, do you want to come and watch it with me? So I was very, very privileged to go to the Akashic record, enter this room, and it's just him and I, and he's got this big smile on his face, and he's so happy. And he's like, let's watch this. And he's looking at me, he's like, look, this is me. Look how much I'm smiling. And, he wants this happy life, and it's all these, and I can see some of the events, but I'm mostly looking at him and how proud he is of this plan that he put in place. Now, is the plan going to follow? I don't know, right? But we all
have free will. We have free will.
Exactly. But we all had this moment where we were absolutely fantastically thrilled with our choices before we came to Earth, where we think this is going to be so perfect because look, I'm going to learn this, I'm going to learn that, and this is going to be so perfect, and I'm going to move in my spiritual evolution, and my soul's going to grow so much in this life, and I won't be able to come and see you anymore. And I just wanted you to know I'm not angry or I'm not ignoring you, but I'll just be reincarnated now. So I think we all have this ecstasy of this moment when we put it all together and we're ready to come back. We're actually excited about it.
Well, because we come from, on the other side, there's only love. And the way it's been shown to me, and also, through years of learning and growing and evolving, especially it seems, again, those that are going to be following a spiritual path, we don't have these Brady Bunch types of lives, but as we're planning this life to come down, we're literally, the more lives you live, the more experience you have, right? You're coming from a place of love and you're thinking, hey, I can learn all kinds of stuff. I'm going to have alcoholic parents. I'm going to be SA'd by a relative. I'm going to have an addiction. I might even throw some alcoholism in there, and you're throwing all this stuff on the plate.
It's so amazing.
But I'm going to learn. And then you've got your, ascended masters and those that help and guide us as souls when we're taking this journey going, you're going to have to live that. Like, maybe you might you might want to take a few of those things off of there, right? And I just loved it because who I was working with on the other side had such a good sense of humor, right? Showing me this. And I went, yeah, makes a lot of sense. Because I usually say, geez, I wish I would have read the fine print.
Right? But in their mind, like my journey was very interesting because my birth vision was I was supposed to be loved and cherished as a child. So that was the first thing that was supposed to happen. Then my dear friend died in a car crash. And that was supposed to make me start questioning things. What is life? What is death? What happens? Is he still with us? And that was supposed to send me on my spiritual journey. Then I was supposed to go to Peru. Peru was an element of like an opening of a whole new highway that I didn't know even existed, right? And then that would have made me change my major in university, and I would have gone and studied traditions and belief of Aboriginal people around the world. And eventually I was going to be where I am, and I was going to help people find their way the way I found my way. Okay, that was the perfect journey. Everything falls into place and you just go and you get there.
But you still got there. And I think that's the point, right? And I think it came from Esther Hicks when she channels, he went right out of my brain who she channels. But they were explaining about, this made so much sense to me, that say you're in a canoe and there's a rapid current and you're paddling upstream. You're paddling, it's getting harder and harder. And it kind of made me recognize, like, you're almost going against what nature is, like what the plan is, why you decided to incarnate here. But they were talking about the fact that if you just stop in the canoe, just breathe, and you just don't keep trying to fight the current, just rest, the canoe is going to turn and you're going to start heading downstream. Now, they were talking about manifestation. Now, to me, in meditation and speaking with spirit, it's kind of like the way life can be, because the further we get away from why we've come here, right? Or to be in service to others, to be on a path of love, right? Life seems to you keep hitting these concrete walls.
Absolutely.
Harder and harder and harder. But if you can just stop and see that maybe if you picture yourself in this canoe in the current and you just rest, just stop whatever you're doing, you're going to start turning and life is going to start to get better and easier. It's not perfect, but it does get easier, I think.
The point is that if there's so much resistance,
it's
because you're not going in the right direction. And that's why it's hard. That's why it's difficult. That's why it's not working, because that's not what you're supposed to be doing. So I'll give you an example, as dumb and simple as it can be. I book planes all the time, right? Because I get to conferences and I travel and stuff like that. And I just finished booking a flight. Now I'm booking a flight to Texas. The site froze. Okay.
Oh no. That's the worst time.
Try to reboot the computer. Everything's working. I try to go book my ticket to Texas. Not working. Okay. I try from my phone. Not working.
You're not supposed to go there.
It's not working. So I'm thinking, okay, well, I'll try again tomorrow. Same thing happens. Now, I really want to book this ticket because the person needs confirmation at what time I'll be there. And I tried calling the airline company to book my ticket. Can't get through. So I found the person. I said, listen, I'm not supposed to go.
Exactly.
And she's like very upset, but we want you here. Da, 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 da. I said, I understand, But
I'm trying. I'm getting big signs. I'm not supposed to be here at this time.
I said, if I was supposed to be there, it would have gone through. There's something in the way. I don't know what it is, but I'm not supposed to go to Texas at this time. So I said, we'll rebook later, and I'll, and of course now she's never wants to see me again. And I'm like, okay, well,
maybe that's why
I kid you not,
in the first place. Maybe that's why you weren't supposed to go in the first place. Maybe.
A week later, COVID hit, and all the borders were closed, so I wouldn't have been able to go anyway. Right? So
that's hindsight, right? That you can also get some of this from going into the Akashic records is also with the fact, like when you've gone through the most difficult times in your life, and everybody has. Now, if you can't get some clarity as to why are all these circumstances playing out, what's happening, you can go get into the records to get some clarity,
but you can see a contract. Right? You can actually see what did I come here to do? What did I come here to learn? What did I come here as my strengths? And how is this, like my son's like, I know I'm supposed to do something super important. I forgot. I'm like, yeah, I said, but he says, why don't you tell me? And I'm like, I can't. It's not my job for me to tell you what your soul's purpose is. My job is to allow you to release your hurt and your pain and booster your self-esteem and your gifts, and then you are to figure this out on your own. But all the answers are in the Akashic records. So whether it's your contract, whether it's the lessons you came to learn, it's all there. So it's an incredible
people you might meet. Like for example, I lost my house, the haunted home that I was in, and I walked away. I could have fought harder at the time. They're still good friends, but I was speaking to a friend and they had said, maybe this is a sign from the universe for you it's time to leave. I don't regret walking away from that home. I don't miss it in any way, shape, or form. But I also know where I am almost 6 years later. Every one of my neighbors I adore. I had horrible neighbors where I lived. The people I've met, the places I am, everything that's happened. So it was a pretty traumatic thing when it happened, but looking back and recognizing had I stayed there versus where I am now, that's the kind of clarity I'm even talking about. If you can't see it for yourself, to be able to go in there and understand even the gifts in it, maybe the what's played out, like you said, in your soul path or your soul plan. I just want to say hi to Kevin. We got here Z-Sun Dragon and Z-Sun Dragon. Kevin, as I call him by his muggle name. Thank you. I gave him homework last Thursday because I said to Carrie Lynn before we went live, I have a funny feeling we're going to get an EVP tonight. And sure enough, we did. Kevin was working and popped in the end of the show. I said, Kev, I got to give you some homework. If you're rewatching, can you see if you hear such and such a noise, when you do the rewatch? So he messaged me in the weekend, gave me the exact moment. I was able to clip it. So thank you, Kev, for that. Appreciate it. But this is what it's about, right? And the Akashic Records has so many other reasons why. And I'm glad that you say that this is part of the beginner, I don't want to say manual, I guess the book that you're writing, because I think it helps build a solid foundation. Because even when we really feel alone, we're not alone. We have a whole team with us. We've got ancestors, we've got angels, we've got guides. There's so many tools. Maybe you're drawn to astrology. Another way to look at different ways to get information into the Akashic Records. I mean, I could go on and on and on there, but we are never truly alone, right?
Absolutely not, because you have, again, alongside you is, for some people, they think that a guardian angel is separate from them. What I've learned is that you can call it a guardian angel, but other people will call it a body elemental.
Yeah.
Other people will just call it your scribe. But this entity, when you're incarnated, are along with you, and they're the one living, almost occupying the same space as you, and they're the one recording into this Akashic record. Because, I had this question of my grandma. I'm like, okay, this book is cool. But I said, do I write this book once I die? Is that what we do when we die? We go to this small cabin.
Yep.
And then I remember and I write everything down. She's like, no. She's like, this partner lives with you. And because he occupies your space with your emotional body and your mental body, it's not a separate entity. They're able to write your thoughts and your ideas and your emotions. So you can't lie. You can't pretend. You're not, it's recorded as it's happening. And so this being is with you. So you're the architect and they're the builder. And if you say, well, obviously I need to get sick, they'll get you sick because they'll build a body that's parts are not working well. So you have that person accompanying you your entire life, but you also have your soul family. Now, that is a group up to 3 to 12 people that are with you at all time in order to support you in your soul's purpose. And as your soul's purpose becomes greater, more and more people add themselves to the team to make sure that you're well supported, you're inspired, you're guided, that you're not missing any quintessential moments and serendipity and, in order for you to project yourself even further along the path. Because the more good you can do, the more transformation you can put in place while you're still here, while you're facilitating the way for everybody coming after you, right? Which is part of that soul family. So you're far from being alone. You got tons of people with you all the time. Makes it crowded in the bathroom.
What's that?
Makes it crowded in the bathroom.
If you want to think about it, I guess. I've never thought about it. I just had a thought here. And hi, Shannon. I just seen your name there. So thank you for joining us tonight. So if we're talking about a soul purpose, and I have no idea why this popped in my head. And no, I'm not thinking of this, but it did. So what would be a soul purpose for somebody that comes here to do something very awful? I have an idea as to why, but say we're dipping into the records. Someone that's a serial killer, for example, has committed mass atrocities against humanity, whatever that may be. When does that become a soul purpose versus, I guess even a contract with many, many people beforehand? But you see where I'm going with that? Because that's something not positive that somebody's agreed to come here and do.
Well, in the same way, this is delicate. So let me be delicate here. Have you seen the movie The Shack or read the movie The Shack, the book The Shack?
No.
Okay. So in this movie book, this young girl, 4 or 5 years old, gets abducted, gets SA, and gets murdered.
Oh.
And but that's just the first 5 minutes, right? The entire story is about how the father finds him, is riddled with guilt and anger and resentment, and it's affecting his children. It's affecting his marriage. It's affecting everything, right? It's like this very ugly spider that's affecting everything and touching everything. But he finally understands forgiveness. And he understands that although what's happened to his girl is wrong, but he can't let that wreck everything else in his life. So the idea is that we need to, if you stole my mascara, I can forgive you, and because it's $3 and I can easily replace it. Am I truly forgiving you?
Not really, because you just...
Right, because it has no import in my life. It doesn't affect my life very much, so I can
You're letting it go is what you're doing, but you're not through forgiveness. Yeah.
Exactly. So sadly, in order for us to understand forgiveness, something truly horrible has to happen to us so that you truly, truly forgive and truly let it go and move forward. And take your lesson with you. The more horrendous the incident is, the more lessons you can gather with it. So it's not just a one for one, right? Now, these people that are serial killers or abusers or any other things are not coming from a loving, inspiring environment. They're a broken individual that usually develop these behaviors in response to their own trauma as a childhood. So they are carrying a really, really heavy burden. And so they volunteer for this either because they have a karma load to pay. And, this is one of their ways that they can clear some karma for themselves.
So do you think though, being a serial killer, and I'm just coming up with questions, would clear karma, or you would create a lot of karma in your next lifetime? You might be the victim or be a family member of somebody that's been affected by a serial killer. Would you not, or am I not seeing it the right way?
Well, for me to answer that question, we need to establish what is karma. Now, for some people, they say karma's a bitch. Okay. They think that it's a tit for a tat. So you stole something from me, so something will be stolen from you, right? It's not quite how that works. Is that you have to make a different choice. And so instead of stealing, you have to recognize that the fact that you're stealing is wrong. So in order for you to learn this lesson, you're always going to be the thief until you stop stealing.
Okay, so Contessa's got a question here. Hang on, I'm going to move it down a little, or move it up a little bit here. She says, what about serial killers that have no remorse, right? Up until the end of their journey here? And to add to that, Michelle says, I was thinking the same thing, Contessa. What are their spiritual helping thinking, or what are their spiritual thinking when they're doing the crime, I guess? Like I think that's what people are trying to understand, right? Like, so somebody that has no remorse, or somebody that, that's a horrible, heinous crime. And a lot of them say afterwards, had you not, okay, wait, she says, okay, so Mish says, what are
their spiritual
helpers thinking when they're doing the crime? So our spirit guides is what she's saying.
Oh, okay.
Spirit guide coming along for the ride, or someone that has no remorse, because people are trying to make sense of this, right? Like, what purpose would that have besides just karma, right?
Well, in the same, we are the only beings that have free will. Right? Okay. In the whole universe, that you believe in aliens or not, angels, spirits, blah, 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 we are the only creature that have free will. So therefore, we always have a choice. Now, there's people that have been SA when they were young, and they married and have children and have a job. They don't all become streetwalkers, or So what's the difference? Well, a person came into their life and saved them. Someone gave them value. Someone motivated them. But in the end, they made different choices, right? So it's about choices. The helpers, or spirit guide, the spiritual beings that are surrounding us are brokenhearted to see that when we make poor choices. The only difference is that they never turn their back on us, and they're always supporting us, and they're all sending love, and they're always trying to be there to guide us in the right direction. But in the end, they can't make the decision for us, right? So now, some people, and this research has proved this, that psychopaths are actually born that way. There's something in their brain
I agree.
That is not, it's not, they're not, just as much as you're autistic, there's something in your brain that's firing differently, right? Except
it's like the empathy switch was never inserted before as they developed. There's no such thing as empathy or remorse, or it's that part is broken. I can agree.
And that's why this is where you have to kind of wear white gloves. They build themselves a body where they would feel no empathy. They are handicapped in a way, but unfortunately, unlike someone who's blind, which doesn't hurt anybody, and someone who's deaf doesn't hurt anybody, these people's handicap, because they lack empathy, sometimes makes them do terrible, horrible things to animals or other human beings. But they were born that way, and they chose to be born that way I don't know. I'd have to talk to them.
That's what I'm wondering, though, the spiritual purpose. Besides that, yes, I know that there's ripples and things. There's been a lot of really good things that have been created in the world due to, say, family members picking up the pieces and laws changed and what have you. I know there's bigger purposes. And again, you may not know the answer, and that's okay. But it's a conversation where I think all of us kind of have these questions, like, because then you do meet people, and I know you've met them, I have met them, and again, no judgment, but it's like, I hate God because this happened. I lost my mom, or I lost my child, or I lost whatever, right?
Yeah, I actually had someone recently who said they lost their faith, and I'm like, what happened? Like, my mom died. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, and then this is not a judgment, it's a curiosity. I'm like, but you knew your mom was going to die eventually. Everybody dies eventually, and you know, your mom was old, and so why would you lose your faith because you lost your mom? So it's interesting how different people go through different experience and have different questions or different thing comes into perspective. But yeah, the serial killers, if they're psychopaths, which usually they are, I don't know. I think that every one of them would be probably different.
Like Connie's saying, this one is so hard for me to understand, and Mish is adding, it's opening up a conversation, right? Or yeah. Mish is saying, I don't feel there is free will. You do what we are meant to do. But then, okay, so we've been looking at that statement, Mish. And again, I don't know all the answers. I tell you guys that all the time. I say, none of us are going to know all the answers till we go back home ourselves. But if you were here to do only what you're meant to do, then why come? Why come? If you got all the answers to the test, right? And whatever, why come? I've tried to look at this with the fact that I think we have crucial points built into our lives, or as we've been talking, like for the path, like you were talking about, you maybe didn't have the life that you envisioned before you incarnated, but through little twists and turns and what have you, you're still exactly where you're meant to be, right?
Exactly. And I think that's the difference maybe from Mish's comments. You still have free will. I made a lot of detours on that journey because, first of all, I wasn't loved, right? So then when I became a teenager, my friend did die. It did make me question about life and spirituality, and it got me researching all the different kinds of religion. But I was looking for love, and I looked for love in wrong places. And that got me in trouble. And then I was drinking and I was partying, and I swear I entered this big gaping hole. And then I figured, okay, well, maybe if someone marries me, they'll really truly love me, which ended up marrying, a narcissistic that was terrible. And until I got divorced, and I said, okay, that's enough. Let's look at life, and let's change the path I'm on. And I used my free will to get me back on track. And the first thing I started doing was to learn to love myself, because no one had done that. And once I did that, then out of nowhere, this Peru trip came back in my life, and I had an opportunity to go. And that time I did go, and it did transform things, and it did open everything and put me on the path that I'm on. But I'd say I'm 15 years behind where I should be.
I think you're where you're meant to be in that moment. When it happens, it's the perfect time. And the only thing I could share from my own personal experiences here, I'm not going to say that I don't grieve every day, and I don't not miss my son every moment of every day. But I will tell you, from where I am in my life right now and the path I'm on, it has certainly, I would have had him for 1,000 years here if I could have, but it's made it easier to comprehend and connect with him on the other side, knowing full well, I will see him again, versus say blaming someone, blaming God, blaming whatever. And I'm not pointing that finger at people, but where if they do, because that's, I think, where they are in those moments, and it's the best way they can cope, especially during extreme pain. But then again, this is where things like the Akashic records, and like you said, mediumship does follow with that. So say somebody isn't able to make that connection, then they find a way, like a mentor like yourself, myself, Julie, there's so many other people, there's thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. You find the people you're meant to work with, and they either help to guide you to find that for yourself, or you work with people like that do the things that we do to be able to help you access that info, right?
Yeah. And it's not as complicated as people may think. It's actually it's easy, it's simple. That's not the hard part. The hard part is, going from, okay, I had this past life, this is what happened. What are the regrets I had in this past life? Because I carried these regrets into this one because I want to fix those regrets. I want to, I want to resolve these things, right? So it's a very personal journey. So you have to do a lot of work by yourself, and you have to not be afraid to look.
That's what I was going to say. You have to have honesty, and you got to have courage. And sometimes you don't. And it's okay to give yourself the grace and the space and the time. If it's a lot to deal with, just peeling little layers off, processing
100%.
that, releasing it, letting it go, healing it, whatever it may take.
Yeah. And that's where you can come and ask, let's say you or me, you get on this road with a partner that helps you through these hard moments so you can get to the other side, right? So the example of the girl that, finally took the class, and she came out the other side, and then she's been telling every single people she sees, you have to take this class, you have to do this. This is so liberating. Oh my God, you wouldn't believe it. And it literally transformed her life, because all of this repressed anger, resentment, shame, you name it. It was literally garbage bags of bad emotion that she was trying to shuffle down her basement of her subconsciousness has finally been let go. So she feels lighter, she feels happier, our life transformed. Like for me, it was when I had a house, and I made a suite in the basement. It was supposed to help me financially, because I was a single mom with 3 kids. And a friend of mine at the same time separated and was in the street with her 2 kids. So I said, well, come and live in the basement. I was going to rent it out, and I'll rent it to you cheaper, and I'll give you 3 months to get on your feet. And I thought I was so generous. Well, she ended up trashing my place. And it was brand new. We just set it all up. New carpets, new paint, new everything. And the dog destroyed the carpets. And oh my God, it was awful. So I kicked her out. And I was looking at this mess, and I was just like, why? If this is supposed to be a friend, why is this happening? Because I'm trying to be nice here. So why am I being punished? Because that's how it feels. It feels like I'm being punished for something I'm not even doing. Right? I'm a good person. You guys don't know me, but I'm a good person. I'm honest. I'm decent. I'm generous. So I'm sitting there, and I'm really wondering, why the hell is this happening to me? And then with the Akashic record, we found that because I never heard I loved you from my mother, I have this hidden belief that I'm not lovable. And if I'm not lovable, I will not attract people who love me. I attracted people who barely respect me.
Or you're a people pleaser. I am working on people pleasing. And right, that same thing though, right? You don't hear that. You don't hear exactly what you said, 100%, right? You never heard you were loved, and you don't, deep down, this is subconscious that you're not lovable. But also I think that we tend to overreach, being kind, being what we need, we are giving to other people. It's kind of like a little bit of the conversation I won't bring up on here we were having before the show, just because we have that intention, whether it's conscious or subconscious, right? Yeah. So we figure if we're kind and we're loving to others and we consider them a friend, that would be what would be received back. But unfortunately, we can only take responsibility for our part. We cannot, as much as we may want it, as much love and positive energy as we put into it for the other person, they have free will too. And sometimes you get to see people's true colors. But where I'm going with this also is by trying to be loving and almost expecting, you know what I mean? Like being a people pleaser. I'm going to be kind to this person. I'm going to give this person what I always felt like maybe I needed when I left this relationship. But unfortunately, that person is not on the same wavelength. If you get, so you weren't being punished.
You're giving it to them, but you're not giving it to yourself.
Yes.
You don't recognize is that the first person you should give these things to
is yourself, right?
So, and that was game changer for me. I was like, okay, because I don't like conflict. I don't like arguing.
I hate conflict. I still do to this day. I don't like it. And that's the thing, if we can try and remember too, and it's hard when things are difficult or they're painful, is things aren't happening to us. They are actually happening for us. So to be able to step back, sometimes you need the time and the space to be able to step back and think, what was the lesson in that? And you were there, like, why is this happening to me? But instead, like, you had the tools to be able to go into the records for yourself and to be able to pull out what the lesson, what the info is, and to be able to give you clarity about what.
And I hope that shows to the people listening or watching that we're not perfect. We've had our moments going, why?
I always say, people think that I run around and my life is like, I've got rainbows running on the front yard and fluffy pink clouds and little piles of rainbow unicorn poop. Far from it. I'm not being fake and I'm not hiding it. I choose to count my blessings. I choose to try to be grateful. I try to do, I try to walk the walk of the talk that I do. I've said this many times to you and on air. That's where I'm at. But people think your life is wonderful, but it's not always.
But I think that's by us being honest that we had these moments, that we went through that. So we're not exempt of these, moments where we've had to learn those lessons for ourselves.
Yeah.
We're here today sharing these things because we've been there. We've done that. And we've been through it. So now we can show you. It looks great from the other end, but you have unfortunately passed through this tunnel. You got to squeeze through. But it doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't have to be horrible. It can be simpler, because now we know there was a simpler way, but there was no one showing us the way. There was no one explaining it to us. So we just get covered in food before we
It's helpful for people to hear this, right? Because as much as I say this, and I know I do it myself too, we put people on pedestals, right? Instead of recognizing, I don't care if someone's super famous or they're a movie star, or they got lots of money or what we all put our pants on one leg at a time in the morning if you're wearing pants or whatever it may be. My point is not to put people on pedestals, right? Same thing. You hear, Pinterest perfect, right? Somebody's little place they film from is so perfect and everything's labeled and wonderful. And everybody looks at that and goes, oh God, how do they do this? I can barely get my hair combed in the morning. Well, guess what? A lot of times, and there's been evidence of this, somebody forgets to turn off the end button on their live and they move the camera 5 feet and their house looks worse than our own houses. So that's what I'm saying. If we can just try and start with ourselves, giving ourselves that love, giving ourselves that grace. If we can't find the answers, maybe step back from it, just pause in the current if you can, or find maybe somebody that you can work with. I like that you said a buddy or a partner that, like, for yourself, myself, there's many people that do these kind of things and be able to help and work with you. We'll never give you the answers, but I always say I'm the male person, right? I'd be able to help you connect if you have the will and the wanting to be able to connect, but you're going to have to do the work. I'm never going to tell you what your purpose is or anything else, but I was certainly
and that's not our job. It's not our job. Our job is to guide you, give you the map, give you the tools, but you got to do the work. That's I got offered so much money one time, and she's like, "Can you do it for me?" And I'm like, "I wish, I wish I could say it." And yet, my I don't know, my conscience or my honesty button got. It's like, oh, it'd be so easy to just accept this big check and just, yeah, I'll do the work.
But then you couldn't live with yourself. I know I couldn't do if, and I just couldn't. But, right. And then I think it makes you inauthentic if we just took that check. But sure, I'll do it for you.
But, I was like, well, how can I fix this? There's no way I can fix you. You got to fix yourself. But that's all of Akashic record, right? It's understanding, you said you got to walk in someone's shoes for a mile before, laying any judgment, but your own journey, you forgot 100 miles of your journey. You barely remember this life. How many times I start with a client. I'm like, hey, tell me when you were from 0 to 5. I don't remember anything. I'm like, well, come on. There's got to be something, you know. And I have to dig, and I have to really, you know, go around and try to get information from them. People are not conscientiously examining their journey. If you don't do that, how are you going to make your next decision? You need to look back and say, where did I screw up so I don't screw up again? Where did I in my life was I not happy? How did these decisions occur? Who was in my life? What was happening? You need to.
I'm going to pause you there because we got like 1 minute left. That went by so fast. Before you tell people where you're at, and you can find more of Sonya, so you can hear some more of these questions in reflection. Stay tuned because Preston Dennett and Dolly Saffron are coming up next with The Light Gate. But tell them, please, where they can find you, buy your books, work with you, anything like that, Sonya, please.
Okay, so I work online. So from my website is really easy. You can contact me from there. All the different modalities and the Wisdom School is on there as well. We do host Shamanic Retreat, and that's in Drumheller, Alberta, Canada. So we welcome people from all over the world. We're close to the Calgary airport, and you come and spend 7 days with us. So depending on the theme, this one is just Shamanic theme. So we'll be working on,
is that on your website? Because we haven't got much time left, sweetie. Yeah. So where can they find that?
I teach Reiki in September, and we have the massive spiritual fair in Drumheller, Alberta at the end of September.
Wonderful, you guys. If you ever want to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me on facebook.com/Angel Rock. For now, once I get my course up in the fall with Leanne, hopefully I'll have a domain name. Also, I do psychic and mediumship readings. I do Akashic Records as well. I do energy healing, teaching, and mentoring. 2 groups on Facebook, Paranormal University for all things paranormal, Angel Rocker Tribe for all things spiritual. Love you guys all. Tune in on Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here.
And I love that show. I absolutely love the Thursday show.
Well,
I'm on there as much as I can. Okay. I love it.
Beneath the Hollow Moon with Carrie Lynn Shellhorn. We're going to be talking lichens, werewolves, and dogmen. We love you guys. Okay, stay tuned for Dolly and Preston. Thank you to Carnation too for sponsoring Carnation Mondays. We love you. We'll see you on Thursday, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.